Welcome back to the Eric Krown Crypto channel. Wishing you a happy to start. It's like Friday morning here as we wrap up this week, a big week actually, of which likely to get even bigger. Yes, that's right, a little bit bigger at least. Anyways, a few things to be speaking about today. One of them, a major thing in fact, as we're going to be going over the moons, the big old moons. Is Bitcoin ready to moon? Well, the moon is here whether you like it or not. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's bullish or not as well, but we're going to be going over the statistics with that. And other than that, I want to once again give the spotlight to the Bybit promotion going on, as I got 0% on maker fees for derivative contract orders. Plus, you can get the Jewel Light for free for the first 30 days if you follow the directions in the link in the description below. And then, of course, because Bybit and pretty much all exchanges go in KYC, which is fucking inevitable, what do you expect? Then yes, they do have their decentralized exchange arm called Apex, which I believe is more freely available, but you need to check that for yourself to make sure that it's available in your jurisdiction. And there's going to be an affiliate link to that in the description below as well, which will actually award you 5% off of your fees for the lifetime of your account. All right, sweet. Let's just jump right into it. Starting off right in over here with the old moons, baby. The old moons, of which I would say I would strongly suggest to hold a reservation before judging, before we actually go over the data with this, because to be quite honest with you, I have always looked at this as kind of like silly. But when we go over the data, I think the data says, fuck your silliness, sir. And so in this case, I want to humble myself and perhaps challenge some views out there as well, because there is a very interesting relationship going on whenever we do see the Bula moons, is what I'll refer to them, which are these ones that are in black over here, that essentially happen typically on lows, or at least before continuation of major rallies, in this case to the upside. So we'll only be looking at the Bula moons in this case. Next time we have a barrel moon, we'll look at that one, but in this case, it's obviously just more, hey, get out of my face, bot, is obviously more relevant for the short term. As that one's going to be happening tonight, meaning that tonight we will officially get a Bula moon. And basically the way that I'm going to be taking these measurements is from the time that the Bula moon starts to the next major high, assuming that there is a next major high, is how I'll be recording this data. So if you want to look at it like this, it would look something like this. As you can see, I've gone through, I think, the last couple of years here. Yeah. Going back till, August of 2021. So about almost 2 years of data. We're going to be going over 20 iterations, of which I already have it listed out over here. And as you can see, out of 20 iterations, 15 were actually pretty significant rallies, giving it about a 75% strike rate, again, over 20 iterations within 2 years, or about 2 years, I should say. Now, the average return for those winners was about 15, a little bit over 15% in this case, with a standard deviation of about 10.5, 10.69, great number right there as well, giving it a first standard deviation between about 4.5% all the way up to 26%. So a lot of variance within there. Now on the other side, these do fail at some point. Obviously 75% strike rate is not 100% strike rate, but it is pretty damn high nonetheless. Anyways, in the event of a failure, we have noticed that produced an average return of, or an average negative return of 13.5 to 14% or so right there, as you can see. Anyways, in the case of wins, they on average took about 10 days from the official Bula moon start. It sounds so stupid when I say it like that, but just hang with me, it's all good. It took about an average of 10 days from that first tick on the Bula moon to the next major high. So typically the time frame that these would span would be 15 to 14 days. I'm just talking about this black area over here, but I'm specifically measuring from the start to the next major high. That is why it can be a little bit less in this case with an average again of 10 on an average return of about 15. So, putting these puzzle pieces together, if we were to go over here and assume, that Bitcoin closes somewhere around where we're currently oscillating within this, $28,000 to $30,000 range or so. Let's say that the Bula moon started today, which it will at night tonight. Then it'll probably be on this candle right here, I suppose. What would 15% on top of current price action look like? Well, that would put Bitcoin. Oh, I need to raise the roof or lower the roof right here. It's too damn high. It's off the charts. The price is off the charts. I don't know what to do with it. It's going so high. Anyways, 15% would put Bitcoin at about $33,500, which is essentially one of the major areas of interest that we've been having on this channel. If and when Bitcoin can essentially break back above the highs that we did see from the last week, basically about $30,000 or so. So I did think that that was rather interesting. And again, on average, we would expect it to be happening within about 10 days from now/tomorrow, which would put us around the 15th, maybe 16th of May, with, you know, at maximum 15 days. So that would put us at around the 20th of May. In some cases, we did see some, you know, very, 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 very short ones as well within about 5 days. But again, those were kind of few and far between. Again, the average was certainly more around 10. From what we can see. Anyways, moving on now, I do want to get into the next thing, and I want to follow up on the 6-hour time frame setup that we identified. I think it was 2 or 3 days ago now. This was a 6-hour Joule light setup where basically it's very, very simple. We're just looking for the 6-hour, in this case, Joule light to go below 36, turn white, and then the PMARP needs to be below 50 while that is simultaneously happening, which all of those 3 criteria happened over here, according to the strategy tester, as you can see. And that does have, if we go ahead and reference the data here, 69 prior close trades had about a 75 or a little bit above 75% strike rate for a nice upside move over the course of the next 36 bars. So 36 bars on a 6-hour time frame is like 9 days in total. But this again happened back here. Yeah, back here on like the 2nd. So, you know, like what, how many days away from this are we now? Well, it's been about 3 days. So 3 minus 9, 6. Yeah, we're probably looking at about 6 days from now if this one is going to play out. Now, if it is going to play out on the winning side, we do typically notice about a 5.5% move on average, in this case to the upside, which if we were to add that on to where that setup officially happened, about 5.5 would put Bitcoin where? Just above $30,000, somewhere between about 30,200 to 30,300, basically a little bit above these prior highs over here, which, as we'll go over later, likely does work in alignment with an overall breakout leading towards those next $30,000 prices. Well, obviously, I mean, you'd already be in the $30,000 range, but what I mean to say is, you know, that's when like somewhere between $33,000 to $34,000 becomes a lot more relevant. In fact, I forgot to put it up on this on this particular one right here, but you know what, we'll just go throw it up right here. Let's go reference the herpaderp ranges on the daily and see where we're at. And yes, what do you know? We can see that the mean comes in right around these last prior wick highs right here at about 29,800 or so, implying that yes, if Bitcoin does close above there, we're probably going to explore the top side of the range, which is just below $32,000. And personally speaking, I do think that Bitcoin would probably just find its way into the next range here, the 80% of historical returns range, which, you know, gets Bitcoin somewhere between that $33,000 to $34,000 number, but that's still a little bit well and far away. By the same token, to the downside, failure conditions are still pretty much the same. As far as the 6-hour setup goes over here, it'll be completely wrecked and invalidated. Did my voice just crack? What the fuck, man? Oh my god, this is embarrassing. But it'll be invalidated below the lows that we did see on the 2nd of May as well on a closing basis, which is like basically just below $28,000 or so. Below there, it gets wrecked, and you're probably looking at a sizable move to the downside. At that point, you know, at least coming back down, you know, just below $27,000 into the upper 26s, probably a try for a bounce there. And personally speaking, I do think that one would likely fail, and we do see things eventually go lower towards 24.5 to 25. Probably another bounce attempt there. And again, personally speaking, I do think that things would eventually go lower than that if that were to happen. What I'm trying to say is that, you know, if you are bullish on Bitcoin, we essentially expect Bitcoin to kind of go sideways within this range, particularly above $28,000. And the more sideways that Bitcoin goes here, the better for the BULAs. Of course, if the bears, if the bears want to take over, I do think that it happens sooner rather than later, actually. So time is of the essence for the bears, and time is on kind of the BULA's side there. Anyways, moving on now, because it is the weekly close for CME later today, we should know that there is actually still the same setup that we've been looking at on the Gaussian channel for the weekly, again, particular to CME tonight. And basically, as we've been looking at, it has been oscillating between the mean band right here at about starting to crawl below about $26,000 and a top side of about 30,700, I believe it is, or 30,600. Sorry. Now, as long as Bitcoin is oscillating between the mean and the upper band, I do look at that as a likely bullish consolidation. It'll be invalidated, of course, below the mean band. At that point, that's why I do think Bitcoin would probably come back down to the bottom side of it and test somewhere around $21,000, maybe a little bit lower. And by the same token, if Bitcoin does break above the top side of it, again, about 30,600 on a closing basis, I would be looking for Bitcoin to essentially pop up and come somewhere around this gap fill over here, shallow 34s, maybe even $35,000, which actually is a little bit more in alignment with the herpaderp ranges over here. So perhaps that's what I should be going with. But ultimately, that would be the next sort of major breakout signal, probably be getting a move somewhere around, let's call it mid $30,000, with probably a stop along the way at like 33 and a half. So, you can kind of see how all these things work together now. And well, 15 hours, 41 minutes and 31 seconds left to go. As of right now, it does still look like Bular's going to have a chance here. But of course, it needs to rally a little bit more than $1,000 in this next 15 hour or 16 hour spread. Doesn't mean that if it doesn't do that, it's going to obviously come down. No, like I said, as long as it's oscillating between the mean and the top side, that is a bullish consolidation. Favors the Boo laws, similar to how it has done in the past. If we go and reference the full data of history over here, and the thing with this is that anytime Bitcoin actually has anytime that the Gaussian channel of the weekly has turned red, and then Bitcoin's reclaimed the mean band after being below it, it's actually gotten not just a free ride to the top side of the Gaussian channel, like you see right here, like you see right here, and like you see more recently over here, but it's actually busted on through the top side as well for a nice rally, which actually we do have data on as well. But I want to keep this video a little bit on the shorter ends here, so maybe we'll go over that tomorrow, as I don't necessarily think it's going to be super relevant for today. I mean, maybe this leads into a setup for next week, actually. But yeah, there you go. I think that's a good place to leave off on that particular topic. Let's go on into stochastic momentum, just see where the pivots are right now. Speaking of weekly stochastic momentum, we can see that it'll actually turn back up on Bitcoin for CME if it closes above 30,000, basically 450 or 500 today. So if we see the Gaussian channel condition met, not only will we have a breakout from that perspective, but you'll also see weekly stochastic momentum turn up simultaneously. So that'd be, that would be big. Daily time frame will actually remain with its upside pivot if Bitcoin can remain above 29,200 on a daily closing basis here, which right now on CME, it is above by about $200, as there's a premium over spot price action by $200 or so. 12-hour time frame shows upside momentum as long as Bitcoin's above 28,850. 6-hour time frame is going to be showing upside above 29,200 or so. 4-hour time frame is actually coming down here and will be showing downside pressure below 29,550. And hourly is, where is it? It's going to be actually going vertical right there above 29,100. So I'm not really seeing any sort of uniformity between this, which doesn't really help me, looking at things from this perspective. So, we can be aware of the pivots. Obviously, I think they're going to most matter, of course, on the higher time frames, though. Daily, 5-day, weekly, and kind of the 12-hour as well. Anyways, other than that, I want to once again remind myself to talk about this because it is still very much active, which is, yes, the daily over here for Dixie. We identified hidden bearish divergence come off that last high from about 3-4 days ago. This is still active. And this is like the perfect hidden bearish divergence call that you typically will get, where you get rejected right at the neutral zone, and then it's headed very likely at least for the top end of the of the bearish control zone. This is coming alongside some of the lowest levels of volatility that we've seen on Dixie for the longest time, comparable only with in the last year or two, with what we saw here in June of 2021, actually, which was the start of a humongous rally. Now, volatility is direction neutral, obviously, but in this case, short term, actually would be suggesting downside. Is it going to be enough to actually break the range and see the next major shattering of the US dollar? I mean, I'm not just necessarily certain that that's a good thing, if you're cheering for that, you're kind of an asshole. And also, I don't know if you actually want that, if you truly consider the consequences of it. Maybe if you live in maybe if you live in a BRICS nation, maybe it's good for you. I don't know. But if you're living in the Western world, probably not a fucking good thing, just saying. But yeah, for right now, looking pretty damn weak. If the weekly does close below, like especially $100. I mean, that's going to be nasty. But I still do think it probably tries another bounce from this region, maybe after one more strike lower. But if it does strike lower in the short term, does that help out, risk assets like Bitcoin? Perhaps yes, maybe adding on to that case. But I do think that even that relationship is starting to diminish as well as the US dollar is losing its global hegemony here. Anyways, I think that's a good place for me to be leaving off on this video. I want to be wishing you the best as always. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully tomorrow.